Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into the Policing in America podcast. I'm your host, Sergeant Tom, and I have with me a special guest, a good long-term friend of mine, Cleon Joseph.
Welcome, everybody. Good to be back in the Morris Media Studios.
Yeah, we actually did this one. Cleon and I have been talking about this, and we said we have to have a conversation about what's going on. We've been doing it offline, and we said, let's get in the studio. Let's start hashing this out a little bit. Everyone in the world seems to have an opinion about this, and Cleon and I are no exception. So we're also going to have an opinion, and we think we're going to start having an opinion that'll work towards some type of solution. So with that, Cleon, thank you for being here.
You know what, Tom? When we talked about this, I was so emotionally traumatized. I almost said no. Because cops, we're not supposed to use the D word, but I fell into a state of depression on all kind of levels. I didn't want to be here, but then after a couple of days of stewing it for a little bit, Tom, I think we have to be here for this. It's important that we speak on the current issue at hand. And I'm ready to be I'm going to try to be intellectual. Yeah. But there is a rawness that I feel like I just can't. I just can't be. I have to be a little raw, a little bit.
Absolutely.
All right? So just bear with me today. I'm going to lean on you for the intelligence side.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. Well, obviously, it's January 30th. It's Monday, and we're talking about the Memphis police incident. As it stands right now, we have 5 Memphis officers that have been fired. They've been charged. It sounds like they've been charged with murder of one Tyree Nichols, 29 years old, died at the hands of these officers. And it sounds like there's more coming. Right?
Yes, from what we hear, there of course, with investigations as they go, if they're thorough, there probably is more coming. There's probably more information coming, and we're all, we all try to do the right thing. I'm not trying to get ahead of it. I'm trying to stay as factual as the information that I have, and we'll go off my emotion from there. My fact first before my feelings.
Roger that.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, Cleon, let's jump into it. Obviously, your initial feeling when you saw this.
I had to wait. I had to wait a day because just hearing about it and hearing about it from people in my community, Cleon, did you see this? I had to wait because we just recovered from George Floyd and Derek Chauvin, that criminality. And I had to wait. And I did wait a day to calm my emotions down. And literally, I decided to go ahead and watch it. And what prompted me to watch it was watching a couple of media outlets, I would call it fanning the flames. Yeah. Fanning the flames instead of finding the core of the solution, the facts of the matter. And that prompted me to just go ahead and watch the video and just do my personal responsibility and just watch it for myself. And I was it took a minute. I said, wait a minute. We just had Derek Chauvin. We now have body cameras. We now have technology, indoor dash cams in the cars. And here are these officers, from what I saw at first glance, the emotional glance, that looked like a mafioso-style beatdown, stomping a beatdown. That's something that gangsters do, Yep. And I needed another day to just kind of digest and take a deeper dive onto the problem is. I always don't want to say good or bad. And mindly, with this is a little different. And let me be very clear. May justice come swiftly for the family of Ty Nichols, and may those officers get the justice that's coming to them. Now, in saying that, I think it's a bigger issue culturally. Remember, I told you it shocked me on deeper levels because I'm an African American. I'm not saying that African Americans aren't capable of brutality. I mean, hey, look at the Rampart scandal and all that. We've had that. That's not the issue. But it's a heavy presence of African Americans on that department. Mm-hmm. And our community has been screaming for social justice. And this is me. I take this in personal because I remember the last time we talked. I said, "Well, how does it feel to be a white officer?" And I guess I'm sitting in my own hot seat, Tom.
Right.
And I said, "Man, in my mind, Cleon Joseph's mind." I always thought that being an African-American officer gave us a sense of credibility in the community. Yeah. We were the protectors, the guardians, to a degree. If we were there, we can handle it. If we flood our communities with people that look like us, it's not that we'll get the yays or everything like that, but it's the people will say, you know what, at least we're there. Yeah. And I was violated, Tom. I was debilitated. Now that's the emotional side. Now
Yeah.
the tactical, the use of force expert that I am now comes through. What is also the issue, And it just comes down to this. I told you I'd be raw, Tom.
Absolutely.
When we make bad decisions, sometimes it's because we can't fight. When you can't fight, you go to archaic techniques. I don't know if it was that. I don't know the personal. We're not there yet. I'm just giving you my side of it. A lot of times when use of force just go bad, it's not because of an officer's good or bad. Mind you, forget with this, it's bad. But generally, when we see stuff, how many times have you seen the officer huffing and puffing trying to get control of an arm,
Right.
and they get frustrated and they go to punching? Not that punching's out of policy, but that's the only thing they have left.
Right.
And it looks bad, and they're exhausted. Or let's just go. Let's tase them. Let's just tase them because we don't know what to do. That is a fault. And I'm talking nationwide, guys. Nationwide. That is a fault to me. And I'm going to shut up for a minute, Tom. Of tactile training.
Right.
Tom, I've said this before. We can write 5 more pages of policy after this nationwide because of this incident.
Right.
And all you'll do is polarize our officers out there. They won't even think anymore because they're scared. They're scared to operate on what they know.
Yeah.
We got to get back to what tangibly works tactically and teaching these officers competencies. All right.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's so difficult because this was such an overtly egregious act.
Yes.
And you and I know the issues that need to be addressed when it comes to a lack of training.
Correct.
And when it comes to the word I'm looking for is we almost tell officers you are prepared because you came to this particular academy or you had this particular instructor, so you're good to go. And we both know that couldn't be further from the truth. Right? And all the training cops do nationwide, how many of them train in their uniform? How many of them train with their vest on? Right? We have them do I'm going off on a tangent for a second, but just to make the point, we have them do their PFQs, their physical fitness test, in shorts, sneakers, and T-shirts. And then we want them to chase people in long pants and boots and shirt stays. So you and I know these issues that are there, and we see those issues just buried in this overarching issue of just police abuse, police violence, police misconduct. I mean, there are instances that come out that you and I will look at and say, let's see what happens.
Right.
But we understand,
Yeah.
because it could be messy and it could be sloppy, and but this is over the top. But it doesn't. But it only highlights. It's over. We don't know yet why they acted like this. We may never know why in their minds, but we know physically they couldn't handle them.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, now, you after we're coming out of Derek Chauvin, and we were bad. And this is the truth. We were all bashing white cops. The media, white cop, black. Oh my God, how did you feel watching it? Did you take color out of it, or how did you feel, Tom?
So when it was brought up, the first question people started asking in the circle was, "I'm curious, what were the cops?" They just wanted to know. Was it a group of white cops that did this? And when it wasn't, there was a sense of, okay, we're not going to get hammered on this one,
Right.
And that's, just being very realistic. That's what it was. There was this sense of, we're done. If this is 5 white cops that did this, we're done. They're going to get us out of the profession. And when it wasn't, it was like, okay, all right, good, all right, so that's not in. Well, let's figure out what the problem is.
Right.
So it's sad to say, but you can't. It's like trying to get peanut butter out of a hair, right? You can't take race out of it, no matter how much you try.
Do you know there's still some media outlets still trying to utilize the white-black relationship, even though they were African-American officers? This is my issue with the media. We'll talk about that later. I think we all need to work together on what we all agree upon, that this incident was horrible, and we can all team together and make it work. But I can't say again how I had to and my wife. I was like, my wife saw me. She goes, "You look." I said, "Sweetheart, I think I'm going to call personnel, and I think I'm just going to call it." And when I put a little Facebook, put my friends' Facebook blast, because people know me, and I just get my feelings. And then I got so many people saying, "Oh no, you and your brother, you can't quit, you can't," and that gave me hope. And I realized I was just emotionally, I was just emoting, And so for me, it's not and I think you said this better, it's not a color issue. It is a police culture issue. Right. Now, for my activist friends, yay, he's admitting the police are messed up. Nope. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is there are tangible things that we can do to fix the optic right away to make our officers more competent. And I think that's the angle that I'm going. And I'm glad we waited a couple of days for this show because I was really on edge and I didn't want to be emotional and like embarrass you, or embarrass myself because I had F-bombs and everything set to go, Tom. So with that said, that's kind of the assessment beyond what is happening here, which justice, I think, will prevail. But then there's another thing. Another friend brought up to me, he's an attorney friend, and he says, this is great that they charge the officers so fast and they're in jail or whatever.
Yeah.
But how come they couldn't do that with Chauvin? He goes, CJ, that's the racism.
Yeah.
And what could I say? I had to sit back, pause for a minute and say, as an African American, just watching it in total, I mean, think of all other cases, non-related, but the Zimmerman, the guy. Zimmerman.
Yeah.
That wasn't police officer related, but again, they waited to charge him. The other incidents, they waited to charge them. And then it's almost like, I'm just being honest, you guys, and maybe you all feel the same way as African Americans. It feels like when you want to push an agenda, when you want to punish, it's quicker to punish the African Americans first. When you want to push an agenda, you throw us out there first, So that's what I felt.
Sure.
It may not be true, but I'm telling you what was running around through my head. Even though this is all messed up, and again, I want justice to come swiftly. And if they're the example, so be it.
Yeah.
But then let that be the example for all officers that choose to be lack of training or just pure evil. Let this be the punishment that's coming. Hopefully,
sort of the wake up call.
The wake up call.
Yeah.
The wake up call, because it's time. It's time to make some severe changes, but it's not the change that you think, Tom.
Yeah.
It's time for some serious training considerations, and we'll go into that later.
Yeah, and it's interesting just to touch on a few of those things. I don't know how long it took for Chauvin, but I thought it was within 48 hours. I don't know.
I don't know.
Because I remember being out on the line and everyone was screaming they wanted justice. And I was saying he's been arrested, just so you know, right? He's in custody, just so you know. Like, I'm not sure if you don't know this or not. So, but I don't know. Right. I mean, you're right. It certainly wasn't as quick as this.
And guess what? The public had to scream.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm talking to Zimmer. Chauvin was a little quicker, I'm sure. But the public there was outcry, and then because of outcry and fear of, that happened.
And I heard with Zimmerman, and again, God, where do you hear this? It's all media outlets. I heard the detectives wanted to charge him.
Yes, that's
right?
true.
They said we need to hold him, but it was the courts that said you can't.
And that's the other frustrating thing: how they turned that incident into a police matter when it wasn't. The police sided with the family.
Absolutely.
So I guess what we're trying to say is that's how in 2023 with misinformation and how information is processed and how information is pushed through the media, even if we wanted to be on the same page, guys, even if this and Chauvin was the perfect scenario where everybody was on the same page and the place everybody went nuts. Hopefully with this one and with officers like speaking up, and talking, and chiefs, and you said we want to talk about the chief's response to this, speaking up rapidly. I think this will help all of us together know that there are all police officers that don't stand for this either, and I would hope that the public sees that. And it's a faint hope, but it's like the faith of a mustard seed. I'll take it. I'll take it.
I agree with you. And I want to just touch on one thing and see what you think. One of the inevitable responses to this will be just comply. If you just comply, nothing's going to happen. And there was a point in time in my younger days when I would have thought the same. Like, if you just comply, you're going to be fine. And then you realize it's, number one, not always the case, just comply. But number two, if everybody just complied, well, we're out of work. Because if they're just complying, well, they're probably just following the laws and they're probably just stopping at the stop signs. So we are brought in to deal with people who aren't complying. And this is where we're supposed to be professional. This is where we come in and we have to negotiate. We need to de-escalate, and then we may have to force the issue. But we still have to do it in a way that's not taken personal, where I got to punish somebody.
I think here's the thing. And again, I'm only speaking that term compliance, when certain communities hear that word, we think of step and fetch it.
Right.
I really believe that's the wrong we got to come up with a different terminology because I'll tell you what now, and I'll stand up for this one just briefly. If I'm an officer and I'm about to arrest someone, let's say someone for a felony crime, right? And I know it's serious, all I want the suspect to do is when I say stop, I want them to stop.
Right.
When I say turn around, I want them to turn around. When I say put your hands behind your back, I want you to put your hands behind your back. Anything else is kind of seems like, the fight's about to be on, That's not compliance. I look at it from both lenses. I want my officers to be safe. And if that were me as a subject or suspect, I don't want to be hurt either.
Right.
It goes both ways. It's a two-way street. I don't want, if we could just come up with another term than compliance, because for some reason and then you go to social media and there's some YouTubers saying, you don't have to comply. Why do they have to comply? It's like, we're just destroying that word.
Yes.
It's 834, there was 835 PC, which gives us the right to do our job as law enforcement. They use the objective reasonable start standard to effect an arrest, prevent escape, overcome resistance. But for my friends outside, there's also 834 PC, that puts that on civilians when it is known that you're going to be arrested. You got to work with the officers, and that works, even though that's one line as opposed to the 15 pages we have to read in law.
Right.
It works for both of us to keep us all safe. So if I say, hey, I want to talk to, like every now and then I talk to youth groups. I talk to the CALFA, a great conversation with the youth at the CAPAs. And when we talk about this issue of compliance, the issue is I look at compliance as if I was talking to my own daughter. I just want you guys to get through it, right or wrong.
Right.
Because if the officer is going to be a jerk, the officer is going to be a jerk whether you're complying or not.
Correct.
What do you want to show on camera? You working with the officer and that guy being a jerk, cha-ching, or you fighting with the officers, giving you and this is my talk with my kids. I don't know what you guys feel with your kids. This was my parents' talk to me. And if an officer pulled me over, whatever you want, officer. I've been pulled over for stuff I didn't do. I've been pulled out of the car in the past. Right? Come on, I've been black 50 years, man. I know what that's about. I had cops follow me 2 miles and pull me over out of nowhere. They pulled me out the car. They started searching my car and didn't even tell me why. I had tears rolling down my eyes. And because all of the stuff I could fantasize that I wanted to do, but I didn't because I wanted to go home, Tom.
Right.
If we could just teach people that, if you hear the officer say, "I just wanted to go home," you call that cliche. I want the same thing for our public. I want the same thing for me when I'm driving down the street, So listen to each other and go from there, Again, this incident was beyond that. But if it opens up the door to talk about other issues that we can fix, so be it, Tom.
Yeah.
So be it.
Well, and that is a phrase that I've never been a fan of. All cops want to do is go home at night.
Right.
Because I'm not there to go. Everybody wants to go home at night. Hey, Amazon drivers want to go home at night. Postal services.
They want to go home.
Yeah, everybody.
Right?
Every person wants to go home. I don't need to make this proclamation. But what I would like to say is I want to make sure you go home. Right. I want to make sure they go home. I want to make sure the community goes home. There are officers and firefighters, first responders on 9/11 that ran into the building. They did not have the motto or the mantra of, well, all I want to do is go home at night. Right. So stop saying that. Our professions get away from that. To your point, instead of comply or obey, I like trust. Hey, can you trust me on this? Can you do me a favor? When I hear a video say, obey, you're not complying, I think, man, it's because you're not building. You're not giving them a reason to comply. Right, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
And let me add something to that. When it gets physical, how do you expect someone to comply when you're hitting them?
Yeah.
Here's the thing, guys, and I'm talking to my officers. Especially your officers that don't have zero competency in grappling or any type of art where you can control somebody. How does it? Let's take it. I'm gonna make it plain. Let me go back to my community. I used to get spankings, Now I've been rest in peace, Margie and Milton Joseph. I've been whipped with switches. I've been whipped with tracks. I've been hit on the hand with keys. And the thing is, the rhythm was, whether it was aunties, uncles, whatever, was, you stay right there. And they hit me, and I start jittering, They hit me again. I start jittering and covering up. Stop. And the beating doesn't stop until I get used to the pain and just finally just freeze up and take a little more before I go.
Right.
What makes you think it changes in a application of use of force? That's what we call in certain agencies, distraction strikes because they're not necessarily meant for a repeat. Okay.
Right.
They're meant to distract and move on to something else.
Yeah.
So here I am. I don't know anything. Well, I haven't trained in 20 years. I'm just a badass cop. Let's just call it as I know what I'm doing. This P1 sit down that just came out of the academy who trained in grappling, right?
Yeah.
Who probably knows a little more than I do.
Right.
You grab the legs and I resort to punching. Your suspect's not going to go, all right. They're going to go, all right. They're not going. They're going to bottle up. And you can look at that as noncompliance. I can look at that as protecting the mainframe.
Absolutely.
And for those of you that do combative arts, when you get hit in the head, do you just flop on the ground and say, okay, sit down for the 10 count? Or do you cover up for a minute to defend yourself?
Absolutely.
We have to start thinking differently. And I think thank God I'm not as emotional as I was yesterday because I want to make sure we're having teachable moments.
Yeah.
Your competency is so important. And again, the public, some people are just not going to, no matter what we come up with, levitation, whatever, the public's not going to care. All right, anything we do, that's fine. But I don't think that's the silent majority that wants to see us competent and proficient and making those same like tactile ground decisions that keeps us from punching, kicking, and using other options. Fair enough?
Fair enough. And I think if we reverse engineer it, because I know you and I will keep hammering it, and let's try to give some solutions, people.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can. We want people to have self-control and self-regulation. I want myself to be in a situation where I can use my prefrontal cortex, right? My system 2 thinking, my critical thinking, so I can solve this problem, not get somebody into custody. What's my problem right now? You're fighting me. Okay, are you fighting me or are you trying to get away? Because there's going to be a profound difference, right? If someone's trying to get away from me, I could still talk, hey, we're going to be okay. We're fine, right? Now, if they turn around and they're swinging at me, I'm probably not going to be able to talk to them as much. Now we're in a defensive mode. But if I'm just trying to collect somebody, you have to be able to recognize this. And I think self-control and self-regulation come from what Cleon's talking about, a competence.
Okay, I will put that in tangible, in plain speak. I've been in law enforcement for 27 years, okay? I've been training in judo, grappling, jiu-jitsu, wrestling for almost 35 years. Man, I forgot I'm 50, Tom. You know, the little tussles, and I don't even call them fights, that I've been in, I never broke a sweat. I never threw a punch. You know, I've taken down professional boxers. I've taken down 240-pound guys trying to take me down. Never threw a punch. And I always had that cortex thing going on. My amygdala hijack was never hijacked enough where I couldn't see my surroundings around me. And the answer is because I train.
Yep.
You develop self-control because you train.
Yeah.
I have rarely seen, and you know some of the guys that train in the department, how are they? They're very mellow.
Absolutely.
And the last thing they want to do is connect, and that's the last thing they want to do.
Absolutely.
But it's the ones that in panic mode, well, I got to do something. Well, let's that is the problem. That, and I don't want to call it a problem to sound the alarms, but I've been doing this. I've been screaming this for 27 years, so I guess I am sounding the alarm. We have got to promote tactile training that's going to help them with that self-control. Because I understand, put it this way, I've been on the mat and I understand what it's like to be choked out. You know, I've been put to sleep on the mat, okay?
Right.
I put a few people to sleep on the mat. So guess what? I respect the fight, okay? And I was talking to Henry Gracie over email, and we were talking about position, control, then arrest.
Absolutely.
If you don't have that ideology in mind, then you are going to make that amygdala hijack is going to go up. If you can't establish position, if you can't establish control, then you just can't. There's no way you can establish an arrest the way you perceive it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's how you do it. Self-control allows me, okay, partner, you take the legs, partner, I'll take the top. I may not be able to get the cuffs on right now, but I've got my body weight on him. This guy can't move right now. How long does it take to wait 30 more seconds while this guy can't move for a third person to come in?
Absolutely.
And we talk about where we work, command and control, right? I know it's a big word that's buzzed around. Okay, so if a fourth person comes, why are we allowing that person to jump in as opposed to, hey, you know what? I need you to coach and see what's going on right here.
Absolutely.
That is the expectation. But because it's on a piece of paper and not practically applied, I think we'll tomorrow might bring about another Memphis. It might not even be close to what exactly happened, but because of the incompetency and the lack of confidence, you won't have that self-control.
Well, yes, and so there is a culture of speed with us that I don't understand.
Great point.
Right? You and I were just talking about a certain video in a certain area wherein the person has control. Like the bad guy's not getting away. This person is on top, bigger, larger, stronger. They're not getting away, but there's this urgency to I'm going to hammer you. Like if you just held them and said, okay, I'm stapling you to the ground. You're not moving. Partner, do me a favor, get some more people, and this guy's not going anywhere. If you got on top of the vast majority of human beings, they're not getting up. But that's because it's not because you're stronger than everybody. It's because you understand body positioning and hips and how to use leverage and how to put the joint away from the body. Because it's here, it's real strong, but out there, it's weaker. It's basic mechanics of physiology. And we want officers to de-escalate. We're not really even training them on good communication skills, right? But I'll tell you what, if they were a certain level of jiu-jitsu, they're going to be confident just in general. They're going to have a demeanor that's, okay, no matter what happens, I'm going to be able to,
Tom,
get through this.
I and nobody I know that's gotten out there in the field with experience in jiu-jitsu or even wrestling, when I watch it or when I rewatch it, they're the ones that don't curse.
Exactly.
They're the ones that even while they're controlling, they're directing others.
Yes.
It's the ones that this is all. Well, I'm just going to put it out there. I got an issue. I don't have a problem with tactical languages if you need to use it. I don't use it. I don't think it's needed.
Right.
But what is cussing? Put your hands behind your back, motherfucker.
Right.
How is that going to make me put my hands behind my back more than the other? We see these in these scenarios. No. It's your competence. Perfect scenario. You brought it up, Tom. So you're wrestling with a suspect and you've got him pinned. Let's say the person's not on drugs, just resisting, having a bad day. Within 30 seconds of that person realizing that, and I'm just giving a basic time frame, that person can't move, eventually they give up the ghost. And you can work with it. Yeah. But if you're getting nervous and panicky because you managed to get the position and you're afraid he's going to get out, then you go, what else am I going to do? Let me reach for those handcuffs. Or they get their cuffs out. Now that really looks bad because now you got to punch. It looks horrible. It just doesn't look professional. It doesn't look smooth. And I honestly believe that's what the public wants.
Oh, yeah.
Proficiency, professionalism.
And we have to get away from these phrases. Well, lawful but awful. Use of forces don't look pretty. You know what? We've watched professional fighters who are trained to do this, and it's a beautiful science. I mean, the way they move, and even in the way they strike, it's not caveman. I mean, these are efficient, and the punches we see that knock people out, it's not these big overhand rights. It's these quick little taps,
precision.
These quick little motions, not even that hard.
Yeah, it's precision.
It's precision and speed. Yeah. And you don't have this idea of like, I'm going to pound somebody. I've yet to see George St. Pierre. We call it ground and pound, but that's a term. It's a catchy phrase, but they're not pounding people. Right. They're bringing them to the ground and they're overwhelming them so the person can't defend and they stop the fight. Like it's a technique. It's an idea of how to win the fight. But we have to talk on this, Clea, because people don't understand too the idea of what fighting fitness is compared to regular fitness. So let's do a physiology. If I'm going to get under some weights and I'm going to grab, I'm a strong guy. I'm going to grab 85 pounds and I'm going to press them. Right? How long does that set usually take? 15 seconds, 20 seconds? And then you put the weights down and you recover for 2 minutes. You may be strong, but you're strong for 15 seconds.
But you know what? Don't lose that thought. But I want to cut in here.
Yeah.
But isn't that the problem? Come on, P1, let's go to the gym and lift weights. You can forget all that stuff, kid. Back in my day, it was this, it was this. Yes. That don't mean nothing after 30 seconds. I'm telling you.
It's the strangest thing.
And I got a call from what would be a martial arts advisory he claimed he was a martial arts advisor for Kentucky, some police department in Kentucky. And he was still stuck on, cobra punches and, joint locks and this, that, and the other. And he was seriously questioning me as why are you guys, grappling doesn't work in the street. He was still, I was like, who am I talking to?
Right.
I'm like, No wonder why, I'm thinking that agency's in trouble. Because if you're still telling me about elbows, kicks, and knees, and this, that, and the other, and fighting multiple, first of all, you're in Disneyland. That's an imaginary scenario. Let's keep it real. And my answer to him was, go feel it. Go for all of you guys. I'm telling you, for that talking that madness. Just go sign up at a jiu-jitsu school. Just say, hey, I want to test it out, okay? And then see if all your crap will work, In fact, you'll piss the other guys off even more, and they'll control you even more, all right? It's just a better option. I didn't want to break that, but I thought it was a good point. There are still agencies that think that, my little joint lock baton, Kublai strike is good. No.
Yeah.
I'm emphatically saying no.
Right.
That can be an added tool for distraction. I'm not taking that away. Right. Punches and kicks, tools for distraction. But beyond that, the optic, we have to get our competencies up in tactile ground training. All right. Yeah. Because and even if you are working on the ground and you have no experience, well, that's where we put body weight in places where it doesn't need to be. Yeah. Proficiency will delineate or mitigate that positional asphyxia issue. Guys, I don't want, after this incident, Tom, I don't want us to turn out like I'm just going to put it out there, New York. You guys is crazy out there. Yeah. In New York, they
overreaction.
They can't mount. Yep. They can't side control the thing that will save their lives. Yeah. Now, guess what they're relegated to doing? They're going to be the next Memphis because their guys are going to be so tired. They're going to be regulated to strikes.
They're going to start doing strikes. One of the finest jiu-jitsu practitioners in the world talked about this. Mm-hmm. Your friend that you're emailing. I mean, he said couldn't be any worse. Because what do you have left now, right? What do you have now if I can't put some body weight on you with precision and control? And this is why professional fighters don't look like professional bodybuilders. And we conflate being fit with knowing how to fight. Now, there's a component to this. Yes, you need some wind, and yes, you need some strength. But George St. Pierre is not outlifting Ronnie Coleman at any point in time, or Dorian Yates, or put them all in their prime, right? Not at all. And every time he takes them down. Every time George St. Pierre shoots, he takes them down. And the bodies couldn't be different in musculature, in just raw horsepower.
Tom, I lost. The story. I lost 25 pounds to be an effective practitioner.
Absolutely.
And not to knock on my brother, but he's 270, big, and it's good to have that look because nobody wants to mess with him,
Right, right. There's that.
Let's just mess with Cleon. Oh, oops, wrong choice. Right.
Right.
I lost weight and stopped all that bodybuilding and lifting because it didn't work. We're the fitness for, I don't even want to say fighting, fitness for law enforcement, right? Yeah. For use of force is more HIIT training,
bursts,
burpees. That's what gets the lungs heart rate up and it comes down. And that mimics that 30-second scuffle you're going to be in.
Absolutely.
And helps you think. I didn't mean to turn it into something like this, but I think this is the subject. When I saw it, after my emotions and my disgust, this is where my emotions is. Because what I'm afraid of, Tom, and I said this before, I'm afraid we're going to write more pages of paper, more restrictions, or more ideologies. Or they'll send us to a conference where someone's tell us, hey, you don't have to have your gun drawn when somebody's coming with you a knife, which happened recently. I won't say where or when, but it happened. I don't want that. Tactile training is going to solve a lot. I don't want to say all the problems because no such thing as some of the problems, a big majority.
Well, so this then goes into the conversation of police need more training. And there was just an article that was written, I think ABC had it, and it talked about all the interventions we've put in, whether it's implicit bias and procedural justice and de-escalation, all body-worn cameras, all the things you opened with. And yet we're still seeing these incidents. That should be a clue, right? The FBI would call that a clue. Maybe we're not addressing this right, and can we try something else? The likelihood of getting your gun and getting in a shooting is incredibly low. Mm-hmm. Right, but you still want to be proficient with the weapon. But the chance of getting into some kind of a scuffle is incredibly high.
You talked about us, law enforcement being able to having to qualify.
Yeah.
How often do we qualify?
Right. We apparently seem to qualify every other month. Yeah. Right.
Well, how often do we have hands-on use of force training?
Yeah.
It happens maybe once a year if they care.
Maybe. And it's going to be, there's certain standards that are put on by certain state boards and the minimum standard. And isn't it funny that that's what we shoot for? Let's shoot for are surgeons do surgeons say, well, you know what? I need my minimum hours. I would venture to say no.
No.
I would venture to say nobody's looking for the minimum.
No.
And yet here we are dealing with human lives under volatile, stressful situations, and we're comfortable saying the minimum. That there's the culture that I think comes in.
Well, I don't want to bash all large agencies to a degree, but I want to be truthful. It seems like some smaller agencies are catching on because they're smaller agencies.
Yeah.
As you know, the larger agencies, 10,000 or more, I understand it's a bigger wheel, bigger, slower turning wheel with more chiefs and deputy chiefs and commissions and inspector generals. But my task is to them too. You guys have to dive into this too. I'm telling you what an answer is. You just said it. You did all the right things with body cam. You did all the right things with dash cams. You did all the right things with policy. But guess what? The patrol officer, all he's trying to do is work 10, 12 hours and make sure he gets home without getting shot. Make sure he's answering the radio car, and he's afraid now of policy. What confidence or competency have we given them to give them confidence to drive out in the field and be the community officers that we need? Again, absolutely. I could go back to patrol right now, and I'll walk wherever I want to walk because I'm not worried about the hands-on. And I understand, and I engage differently. I smile. I don't use profanity when I use force. I never saw the need to. Yeah. So it's just, I digress.
But you train like a professional.
Yes.
And this is, even when I do my deadlifts, people will say, oh, you shouldn't go so many reps and you shouldn't do, deadlift is for this. I don't need to pick up 315 pounds and stand there. I might need to pick up a 150-pound woman or a 230-pound man and walk out of the street. It's a different kind of deadlift, right? I'm not trying to do something just for this. I might need to grab you and run. It's a and I need to be able to hold that deadlift for 100 yards.
Exactly.
So every now and again, when I hand stand up, I will walk around with this weight because I got to know what it's like to have a physiological demand on my legs, but still be able to keep my grip.
Yeah.
But that takes attention and time and effort, and you have to look at it as though much broader. Right, because you can be fit. It's important to be fit, absolutely, for longevity and stress management. And sure, just being fit will help you win most encounters. Yeah. But when it comes to this, the fact that these men couldn't get one guy into custody, no matter how squirrely he was, and I didn't see any officer with black eyes or a missing tooth. If this was, somebody that was brutal, I could see this was a Donnybrook, but there not a scratch on him, and they had to beat him like that.
Struggling with it.
Yeah.
I'm struggling. You were asking me, you were talking about command response to this,
Okay.
Well,
so the Chiefs, it seems as though if you're on the LinkedIn, that's the extent of my social media, it seems. So if you're on the LinkedIn, every chief that's out there seems to have drafted a letter that says this is not professional policing and we don't adhere to it. And I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. Somebody I respect greatly, William Bratton, said he was very happy to see this. So I lean towards that. Is this a platitude? Do you mean it? Are you trying to placate a community? I don't know.
Well, let's put it to where we're at right now, because I think we're talking about trust when it comes to procedural justice, and I think that incident that happened down in Memphis dropped the level of trust nationwide.
100%.
So is it because we're trying to keep our cities from blowing up? Is it because, or do our chiefs really, really believe what they say? For me, it doesn't matter. I think when it is back in the day, if it was this 10, we probably couldn't even do this podcast 10, 15 years ago. I don't know, maybe we're taking a risk now. I don't care. I'm old. Come get me, But the guy, I ain't mentioning no names anyway. But the thing is, back in the day, now that we see, I am glad, number one, that the Memphis chief came out so quickly.
I agree.
And said what she said. She addressed it very well, and what happened swiftly. I am actually glad that other police agencies are saying, hey, no, we wouldn't do this. Now, there is a time where it's in policy, but it's not of the popular with the public. I should stay out of what Long Beach is doing. It's none of my dude. Don't put a camera in my face. Right. Long Beach is over there handling their investigation. When it's one of those.
Yeah.
But when it's something as pivotal as a Derek Chauvin, or an incident like this, I am more than okay, because it shows. Because I believe these chiefs are humans just like you and me. know, and they share the same concerns. Some have more power to do more than others, you know. So I think for them to come out and make these statements, I do believe that they believe in it, you know.
Yeah, that's fair.
And you hear some people saying, you know, well, look at them. I remember when he was a cop. That doesn't matter. Well, I remember when you used to do cocaine. Right. You know, I mean, we can't go shoulda, coulda, woulda. They're already. I'm right here on New York Post where they're trying to bring up the Memphis police chief's past. What does that have? Yeah, what does that have to do? Matter of fact, I will not even mention what they're trying to pull up because I just don't think I'm not that kind of media person. You know, we're trying to stay progressive here. You know, about just her former job, and I'm like, wait a minute, but she's doing the job now.
100%.
She's doing the job. Maybe they learned their lesson back then, but they're doing the right thing now.
Yeah,
we can't go back in time, and I think that's the other issue. We keep going back in time in people's past when they're making the correct decisions now.
Yeah.
What she did, and I could care less. What she did now was leadership.
Yep.
And that's a good thing. But already they're trying to tear her down. You know, isn't that what you want from a chief? From the community? That's just my thought. You know, that's what I would want as a community member. That's the transparency that I need, you know, on something egregious as this. Everything else, I can wait for the facts on. You know, the wobblers, let me see if it was in policy. Maybe there's more that I didn't know. Yeah. But then I do like the fact when chiefs get ahead of it because to me, Tom, that's leadership.
Yeah.
Right? And and when she does it, that helps others stand up.
Yeah.
And that does develop public trust. Not in the immediate. I understand people are upset. I'm upset. You know, but I like the fact that this time, you know, we're seen, we're speaking, we're out there, we're saying, hey, this isn't right. You know, this is not what our officers would do. And I think that's a good thing.
So I like how you said that, and I appreciate it because you gave me a different perspective on it. Let me ask you something, because I'm seeing this a lot too, this idea of culture. And I think I even have said it. If there is this culture, then all the jiu-jitsu training in the world doesn't matter. Now you're just going to have really highly skilled assholes, really highly skilled people that are there to oppress a community or you know, just target a community. Do you feel there is some type of culture now? Maybe subcultures or the idea that we win or this. You know, I'm a badass. Is there any culture that you see where this could be, even though with the good training, we're not addressing it enough?
I think that it's going to take, like anything else, like racism itself, like what's the term we're looking at? Implicit bias itself. Mm-hmm. It takes a long time to wash away old thoughts, old feelings, old cultures too. Okay, it takes a long time to wash away. I think some agencies have come a long ways and are leading the charge.
Agreed.
But they're still subcultures, whether we want to admit it or not, whether we can tangibly see it or not. And I think that's the hardest thing I'm trying to get the public to see. When they're already saying, for instance, Tom, they're already saying there's reports coming up or some off LinkedIn guys saying, well, maybe it's the background process. Yeah. Maybe they're drawing from the bottom of the barrel, you know. Well, gee, that's the first thing you say when something goes wrong. Maybe they didn't, that's BS, you know. My thing is, they just didn't know how to fight. You know, it had nothing to do with their background. You know, I'm hearing things of that nature.
Yeah, I'm hearing that too.
Or it's just, you know, get them. The old cliche, I'm trying to go because I was trying to get home, you know, or stuff like that. Or you hear about South End, you know, cobbers, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
What is the environment? You know, if I'm an officer working in hell, right, and I'm doing the best I can to be, but I'm always on alert because, you know, a 6-year-old was shot the other day, or maybe an officer was shot at the next day, and that's chronically happening. I could see where my demeanor is a little different, demeanor-wise. I could see coming home every day, and I work gangs, coming home like, oh, God, you know, I mean, my wife just seeing a whole different personality.
Right.
That's one thing. But absorbing the culture of us against them, that is something that really has to die. I never conducted myself that way. If that's still a thing, and I'm not here to lie to you guys, I believe that, you know, in some instances it could be a thing. You know, I can't tangibly say it. I don't know. You know, but it's us against them. We're the well. Here it is. This is tangible. You know, when they say Black Lives Matter, what's the next thing that comes out of a pro-police mouth? Blue Lives Matter. Right. When I think both of it is a bunch of crap. You know, to put a title and a color on anything drives me nuts. Police officers aren't on a race. We all go home to our Jewish communities. We go home to our black communities when we're done working. We go home to we are who we are. That's why I can't stand it. But guess what? Now we've created this culture. Think of the flag that the police flag that's getting taken down in different agencies.
Right. That
flag was never meant for. And I don't do flags. I don't do rainbow flags. I don't do black and blue flags. I don't do Black Panther flags. I don't at the gym I run. I have no flags in my gym. I just don't. I don't even have an American flag in my gym, and I feel like that's my patriotic duty too. It's not that I love America, but my goodness, that flag, the origins had nothing to do with the current times of racism or Trump or whatever you want to say. They've associated that flag with that, and now we had to take it down.
Yeah.
I think it's sad. I understand why they had to do it. I'm not mad about it per se, because if that's what that flag turned into, okay, but please don't take away my right to do law enforcement and protect my community.
Right.
At the end of the day, as long as you don't take that away, it's cool. But but we took it ourselves. Now, I didn't say we. You hear officers talking. We took the flag.
Yeah.
We go on Facebook. Boom! There's the flag.
Right.
We show pictures of ourselves with muscles and eagles on our back, and what the hell, man?
Yeah.
That's a culture. That's an ideology that I'm better than you. You may not be saying that, but I freak out when I see guys with helmets and shields and Roman swords, and it's like, dude, I know you can't fight. I know you can't fight. I don't have a statue or nothing in my home. All the only thing is I may have a cross somewhere in the Bible. All right, and take that for what it's worth.
Yeah.
But yes, that us against them, maybe, and like I said, I can say good things about some agencies, but you can say, and remember, it's not even about color. I wonder what the culture is out there, in Memphis. Is it isolated? Is it us against them?
Right.
I don't know. But guess what? Don't we all establish cultures and implicit biases? In all professions, we do, and not to lower the level and just add other people. No, I'm just saying it happens. Yeah. But the reason why it needs to stop in law enforcement, because it doesn't develop community trust.
Right.
When you see me helping a young man, surviving from gangs, and I remember years ago I was mentoring a kid working gangs, and I literally, why are you talking to this kid?
Right.
Because I'm trying to help him get this job at McDonald's so he can stop doing what he's doing. Well, hey, he's a gangbanger, right? Duh. I was born and raised in Long Beach,
Yeah.
But if this kid wants to change his life, why am I going to treat him like that at this time? You know what I'm saying? Or the old, you see a kid standing on a corner. Most of the time, you know what that's about. He whistles, let's stop and talk to him. Okay, you want to talk to him? We'll talk to him. Well, you got to cuff him up. Why do I have to cuff this kid up? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think
I know exactly.
You mentioned something that was pretty good, and I think we might as well get it out. I understand the oppressive. I lived in the 90s, okay? And then I do believe we morphed into this suppressive. And all of this was for good reason, because we weren't out there sick. People were calling the police. People from that same color, same community were calling the police.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know what to do. You called us, but we had no community competence. So you let other people from outside, from Idaho, put on the badge and figure it out.
Right.
All right?
Right.
That's our fault too. Now we kind of have this hands off, and we need time to breathe. I need you to have that time to breathe, but you still got to be able to call us when you need us. And we still have to talk instead of fight each other when incidents like this happen. So I can let you know that, the people that I work around with, our training division, are training better officers. Better officers are coming out in the field. Procedural justice, as you teach very well, rules the day. I'm very proud, Tom, when you invite me back to speak to officers that's been out in the field a couple of years or then 5 years. Yeah. And you see that still bright-eyed, bushy-tailed look.
Oh, yeah.
But do you remember when I came and I talked to a bunch of South End kids?
Yeah.
Oh, they had that look. Right. Like, ooh, and I felt like, man, did my stuff work? I don't know. But they came outside and told me this was good stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
They probably haven't heard it before. That's why. And they're like, you could say that out loud?
Yeah.
Right? Because they're, like you say, that these cultures, I know it's a simple word, but I don't know what else to call it sometimes. Because why is it that when I show a video, some people say, well, at my division, that's how it is. And people at another division say, that cop's going to jail, right? Like you're not going to find people with more similar training and experience than the people I get, because they're all of the same class.
Right.
Right. But yet they can watch the same video. They could see the same thing and one say, good to go, and one say, wow, that guy's going to jail.
Okay, that's a good point. But now what happens, now this is to my public, but what happens when we all, I mean, the hardest of the hardest cop to the I guess the powder puff of the powder puff, all agree that this is bad.
Absolutely.
How do we take a moment, Tom, to come together? To me, this is a moment to come together right now. You know, I guarantee you, I don't know one officer that believes that that was okay. I don't. But here's the truth. Could it happen again? Not from a place of evil. It's from a place of what I talked about earlier. If you don't have competency, the chances are amygdala hijack, you'll fry, and then you go into those old tactics because you just don't know any better.
Absolutely. You know? And I should qualify that. It would be a video of, say, somebody getting tackled, not an excessive abuse of power. But we saw this with Chauvin, and many of us said this isn't going away. Like we trained to put knees in these areas, right? Now we were trained to say if somebody can't breathe, we're going to move them. But like the technique itself was very, very common. And here we are again, and we're seeing it. So are we professional? I mean, or are we allowed to say, look, there is a difference. Stop saying police. Say these 5 officers. Because I read that too. Okay. Police officers. Yes, they were police officers, but they were 5 cops in Memphis, not 5 cops in New York, Chicago, L.A. Like, can we start separating that?
I'll tell you why. Because it doesn't matter for police officers. It doesn't matter if I'm an African-American male. There are still certain places that if I make a certain move, in a store, someone's still going to follow me because, all people, they're all like that. As long as we have implicit bias, that'll never go away. The only way you can fix that, and I get what you're saying. I've said this before. Man, why can't we just compartmentalize? You know, I don't even know if that's a whole agency. What if it is just those 5 officers? Right. I had to settle with the fact that our public, I'm friends with radio personalities that know me. They know my community work, but I hear them blasting that crap. Oh my God, the police are horrible. And I'm sitting there like, but you know me. Oh my God. I don't want to name them. And I'm like, what? Right. It's always going to be there because it's easy to say. And the other thing is when you're emotionally upset on an incident, it's easy to blanket everything to satisfy the end result. Yeah. And I think what happens is when you get overly charged up to get the results you want, there's more damage done. There's more residual damage done as opposed to saying, hey, we all agree here. Yeah. Let's work on the solution together.
Well, and so a friend, I'm doing a show again tomorrow because this is going to be a topic people want to talk about. He asked me, how do you feel about this? And if I say, I'm upset, I'm pissed, I'm mad, he'll say, okay, well then you're not allowed to have an opinion just yet, right? Because he's like, go be mad. And then when I ask you, how do you feel, say, I'm just trying to work through it. Okay, now we can talk. Because if you tell me you're mad, you're upset, we already know you're not processing everything. Right now, your biases and all kinds of bias, whether it's your implicit bias, your diagnostic bias, or your information bias, whatever it is, it's going to be stronger than if you were just calm and you don't feel a certain way. You're not sure yet how you feel.
That's why I said, Tom, I'm so glad that we did the show today as opposed to 2 days ago. Right. 2 days ago, I would have been frothing at the mouth and, ready to retire from my, and just let you really have it, Yeah. But I am, now that I have a chance to debrief, I can come up with something antidotal. We can get mad all we want to and scream, shout. That's not going to get the job done. I take a step back. Okay, I've got all my facts. I'm satisfied that these guys, I'm hoping, praying to God that these guys get the justice they deserve. Yeah. Now, with that said, how do I keep that from happening where my sphere? I know what you're saying, Tom. I can only control the sphere of officers in my sphere. There are some people, as I said on a previous show, that think that Kentucky trains in the same academy as Long Beach or LA or whatever. No. It's not true. It's not true. And like I said, let's see what Memphis has. Let's see if it was isolated. That's what I'm hoping for. I don't want to blow up and know it's a culture, but I don't know yet. Yeah. I don't know yet, but I do know one thing. Those 5, and as more comes out in the investigation, as they sometimes do, I will judge compartmentally where it's at, and and I can make better decisions from there. And how do I grow from that? I think that's a competency issue. You can call it evil. I agree. I don't like it. I think it was very sinister in mind. But there are more issues that I think it could happen based on an officer being tired, not knowing how to fight, and saying, this is what I got. I'm going to use my baton. I'm going to use a kick because I don't know what else to do, you know? So we got to be careful of that.
So master trainer, one of my coaches, of course, I was never a better boxer than that fight you trained me for, by the way. That's still the best fight I ever had in my life. You couldn't hit me because of you. You taught me how to not get hit.
Competency, right?
Yeah, oh man, I was as comfortable as can be in there. Now, that being said, with the few minutes left, so some officers and people are listening. They're like, look, I'm in. You know what? I'm listening to you two jokers. Fine, give me some takeaway. How often does somebody need to train to be good enough to be a police officer? You know, they're not trying to win Abu Dhabi, but like, what's the minimum they can do?
If you care about, as much as you care about your guns, I know officers that clean their guns every day, you know, and they're on video with their, you know, they're jerking the rifles off, as if that's their orgasm right there. If you're going to do that much with a gun, give me twice a week, just twice a week. Twice a week minimum. Go to a school. Like I go to Gracie University. I'm sorry, I got to put this out there. They have an excellent course, Gracie Survival Training for Law Enforcement. It's fundamentally, it's awesome, you know. But there are other schools out there that are doing the same thing. It doesn't have to be a school where you're rolling in the end. If you're just going to a school where they're teaching you the basic positioning combatives, where you don't even have to break a sweat, twice a week. That's going to develop muscle memory. And as you say, 3 is better, 4 is even better, and then maybe you'll fall in love with it. But it only takes, just take an hour and a half course. Jiu-jitsu classes are what, hour and a half? Judo classes, hour and a half tops?
Yeah.
Twice a week. You don't have to spar. You can say, bro, I'm not ready to spar yet. But you're getting those principles, those key principles. I say twice a week minimum. Now, as far as law enforcement, I know we don't have time for twice a week, you know, but we can somehow open it up and offer it as incentives.
Yeah.
We can also make longer training days as opposed to 4 hours, you know, so we can make it muscle memory. So that would be an answer, you know.
What do you know about, or what do you think about these micro trainings?
Shouts out to I'll put this out there. Shouts out to Tabor and Lee. This young man is also doing big things and introducing micro training to officers, and we're hopefully the 3 of us going to get together and try to enhance that a little bit. Having just micro training, brief techniques and roll call to remind the officers where they need to be as far as body positioning. You know, which could lead to sweeps, takedowns, or whatever. But if the officers are thinking that, chances are they're going to try what they've put their hands on. Yeah. And shouts out to Tabor and Lee for that, you know. And I know him. You and I know him. I've trained with this young man, and guess what? Yeah, I mean, just selfishly, he's an African American. I think it's awesome because I think we just sat there and said we're the answer that our community is looking for.
Absolutely.
And I think that's why it hurt so much with the Memphis thing.
Absolutely. So with that, you get out there twice a week. And remember, we're not trying to learn how to defend against every Doris choke and every Kimura.
No.
We just want to know good positioning, how to keep yourself safe, how to modulate your breathing so you're not getting overwhelmed. You do it twice a week. In 3 months, you're going to see a difference. You have a baseline. In 6 months, you're going to be the person you are at 6 months will win a fight against the person you were 6 months ago.
Tom, I've taught beginners basic ground positioning, how to hold person. I didn't give it a finish, no arm or nothing, just positioning, and they were able to win in a very short period of time. Okay, but it's because they tried.
Yeah.
And I want our command, and I love you guys. I want you guys to try. I want you guys to show up at the training days and feel it for yourself so you can properly promote it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. On the other side of failure is a better version of yourself. I keep trying to say it. Get out there, fail when you're trying to get better, that is. And just take it. Like, it's embarrassing, right? It's embarrassing to go out there and get rolled up a little bit, but you'll be better for it. And it could save your life and save the lives of the people we've been charged to serve and protect.
Tom, there's so much more we can talk about, but I don't want to disrespect Felicia over there. She's a legend. I don't want to get beat up.
Absolutely. She is a legend. We're going to keep this up. So you're on season 2 now. You're my one on season 2. And maybe we're going to have some kind of a series we do weekly that we can talk about here. Maybe we show something.
You know what would be fun? If you can have me back, maybe we can have some community members,
Absolutely.
and just have that open forum.
Would love it.
We need that because this is why I love this man. You know, I just love the fact that, you know, he's opened his heart and I don't mean this as cliche. I don't see color when I talk to him. Of course, I know you're white. Of course, he knows I'm black. But man, we have the most comfortable conversations because we dare to do so.
Yeah,
and that's how we do it, y'all.
Absolutely.
Tom,
thank you so much,
I love you.
Man, for coming. I love you more. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Please put your comments on the bottom, questions for myself or for Clea, or if you want to come on and talk with us, do it. Just reach out to us. We're more than happy to host that.
Man, I might be his co-host.
Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one.